Today, I want to talk about something that I think is so overlooked amongst specifically people in America. In America, we have this culture where we don't do a lot of international traveling. Maybe if we do take vacations, with the little vacation time a lot of us are given at our jobs or what is required for college studies and then working, a lot of the time that vacation time is taken going to other parts of the United States or Hawaii, right? We don't do a lot of traveling abroad in the United States. And so if you're in that boat, if you're in the United States and you see a lot of the social dysfunction that I've been kind of discussing on this channel, you really need to look into and find a way to travel abroad, to travel to countries that are not your own. Find a way to look outside the experience and go outside of what is given to you for face value here in the United States. For this next year, which I'm going to be documenting as much as possible, I'm very excited about it. I will be going to Korea for an extended period of time. I'll be going to Colombia here soon, just for a little while. Maybe hopefully next year go for longer periods of time, but right now my schedule can only accommodate a short trip to Colombia, but then I'll be staying, like I said, an extended time in the country of Korea. So I'll be traveling a lot abroad next year. I'm very thankful that the situation I'm in allows me to do that with my job and occupation, and so I'll be taking advantage of that. I have been to the country of Korea twice already, so for different work things that I've done. So I've already been to Korea a couple times, and even just those few trips, which I wasn't there super long. I was probably there for 8 days the first time and 7 or 8 days the second time, so about a week both trips. But even if it's just a week in a different country, you really learn so much about how different cultures operate, the problems with your own country and the problems with the country you're now in. It's a very interesting compare and contrast situation that you can go through, that you can kind of experience. And I think another thing is, a lot of times when people take trips, especially abroad, the trip is not for them to learn and gather data and try and understand how maybe a different location can resolve some of their issues. A lot of times people take trips abroad and they go to a tourist location, they stay at the tourist location, everything is priced up, everyone can kind of speak English there, and so you're not actually really exposed to the culture that you're at to the degree that I think is necessary. Because a lot of people will take sort of these just tourist trips, for example, and not really look outside of the tourist area or the safe area that they're in. And I'm really thankful that when I've gone to Korea a couple times, it was not really a touristy trip. They were both kind of work trips, although I did touristy stuff. But because they're more work oriented, I went all over the country of Korea. I got to see different places. Doesn't mean I've explored everything. There's so much, and it's a large country, there's so much to explore. But because of that, I got to see a lot of faces and a lot of facets of Korean culture that if you just did the typical tourist thing, you wouldn't be able to see. And so when you think about taking these abroad trips, don't think of it as like a big vacation. For example, I'm looking to go to Colombia next month. I'm really not looking at it as a vacation, really. I mean, yeah, there's going to be fun aspects to it, of course, that are going to be vacation, like the sun, for example. But really, for me, a lot of it is going to be gathering data about different places to live and how I can maybe leverage that in the future. That's really what I'm thinking about on these different abroad trips. Because I think people need to know, and specifically men in the West, in the United States, I think need to understand that they have much more options than they realize. That life in the West is not as hopeless and not as difficult and not such a steep upward climb as it seems. As I've outlined in other videos, how society is different, financially things are set up differently than they've ever been and are more difficult than they've ever been to kind of recreate that classic American dream life. But when you realize that there are other countries and there are other options available for you, both financially and dating and culturally and socially, to experience, it really can kind of open up your mind that, you know, there isn't just one way kind of carved out for you, that there's a lot of different opportunities, especially if you have a job that you can take remote to any degree. You really do have almost unlimited options, because earning money in the United States dollar is just so advantageous with respect to other currencies. It's very, very strong, even with all the inflation that we're aware of over the last 5-6 years or 4 years, you could say. The American dollar is still incredibly strong. I think I checked the American dollar versus the Korean won last week, and it's even stronger. I think it's $1 to 1,300 Korean won. I think the dollar is like to 4,200, 4,300 Colombian pesos. Incredibly strong if you understand the economies in those countries. And so basically, like in Korea, the Korean won is essentially $1,000 is kind of like a dollar to them in a way, if you understand that. So for example, like a dinner will cost like 19,000 Korean won. That's like $14-15, right? So you kind of get the idea there. But the American dollar is growing in strength. So if you have remote income, if you're earning money, and I think the euro could apply to that as well, the Australian dollar could apply to that as well. If you're earning money in that currency, it's so strong in these other countries. And so you can leave the existence that you have in the US, where it's a massive upward climb. You have to make a lot of money to kind of get the standard of living of housing that you would expect for the work you're putting in. And you can take this elsewhere, and you can go to other places and rent apartments or get places or travel there, and you'll find your expenses just kind of drop significantly off. As I'm looking for places in Seoul, South Korea, the prices are astoundingly cheap for what I'm going to be able to get in the city. And Seoul and Korea is not particularly, I would say, a cheap abroad country. It's, westernized at this point. It's still, I would say, fairly expensive for abroad country standards, but I would say that housing prices still are probably half or a third to what it would be in like a major American metropolitan city. Or you could say, like, for example, to get the quality of living that I'm going to get there, I would say that the housing cost is a fourth to a fifth of what it would be in like LA or New York. And I could maybe even like 60 to 70% off what it would be in those cities. So that's pretty crazy. If you start doing a little bit of research on that, it becomes kind of mind-blowing how much you can leverage that and how you can improve your quality of life very simply by just changing your location. I understand that's not achievable for everyone at the moment. I understand that like some people are given more better circumstances to do that, and so you may not be in the situation to do that right now. That's totally fine. That's why you need to look into finding ways to create that remote income, or be really aggressive with your saving strategies so that you can spend extended period of time abroad, or just take a couple trips to other countries that interest you, that have low cost of living, that kind of fit all these different check marks, and see what it's about. Because just the 2 times that I've been to Korea, it really did change my perspective on things and did really alter how I thought about American society and what my future might be like here in the West. It can be really, really kind of an eye-opening experience, and you don't know what that experience is going to be like for you until you try it and you do it. That's all I can say. It's like you need to try it to do it. Now, a country like Korea is pretty safe. It's pretty safe for anyone traveling there. So, that's not really a barrier, I would say. Seoul's a fairly safe city. I've spent a decent amount of time walking the streets of Seoul, even at night, never really felt uncomfortable. Of course, Colombia is a little bit different when it comes to safety. Of course, if you take precautions, which I'm going to go over as I kind of document this whole thing that I'm going to be doing, if you take the proper precautions, you should be able to be safe there as well. Yes, some headlines have been negative about countries, Latin American countries, but if you're not a complete, idiot, if you judge things properly and you don't look in the wrong areas, you can be just fine too. But you don't know what kind of flavor of country you like, or what flavor of living or culture you like, until you go out and try it. So if you've always liked or been interested in Asian cultures, I recommend, if you're able to, going to a place like Seoul, South Korea, and just seeing what it's like if you enjoy it there. There are smaller cities in Korea. There's the island city of Jeju, or there's multiple cities, I should say. But they're Hawaii, so to speak, is Jeju Island. That's kind of a fun place there. But there's multiple different urban areas of different flavor in Korea, even of itself, that you can maybe check out and see. And it wouldn't be, I don't think, too overly expensive if you did that. I found amazingly priced Airbnbs for, well, it was like $1,300 for the entire month. So if you do that, divide that by 4, you can get an amazing Airbnb in Seoul for like $300 for a week. So that's pretty good right there. Taxi fares, Ubers are dirt cheap. in South Korea. So, I mean, I remember paying like $2, $3 for Uber rides. So you don't even need a car really. You can just Uber and taxi everywhere you want to go. Eating out and food is pretty inexpensive. So it's a pretty inexpensive trip if you do it, the flight being the most difficult part with it being all the way over in Asia. So that might be the biggest barrier for you. Or maybe you're interested in Latin American cultures as well. I'm checking out Colombia. I can't recommend one specifically for you because I haven't actually been there yet. So that's where, but that's where I'm targeting and looking at there. What really helps when you're looking into maybe expanding your horizons and traveling abroad is becoming familiar with the language. So I've been learning Korean for about 2 or 3 years on and off. It's a very difficult language to learn, and I want to document some more of my process here for you about learning that language. I'm starting to get to a degree of very minor proficiency. I would proficiency probably isn't even the right word to be honest, but I'm building up vocabulary. I'm definitely learning some of it so that I'm somewhat useful when I go there for an extended period of time. I'm also learning Spanish simultaneously a little bit. However, I was studying Spanish all the way back in high school. I've studied it, kind of been keeping up with it for a long time. So it's about 10 years that I've been learning Spanish on and off. So I have much better proficiency with Spanish when I go to Colombia. I'm not perfect with my Spanish by any degree, but I don't think I will be lost. I'll be able to make basic conversation. So I'm not too worried about that. Korean is a much bigger challenge, but look into starting to learn those languages as well, so you can get an experience of the culture outside of just the touristy aspect of it, and really kind of delve into it and just get a feel for what it's like. So anyways, that's my thoughts on that. Leave a comment down below. Have you thought about traveling abroad? What's your favorite country you've been to? Maybe you've been to a foreign country. I like to hear your experience, but just think about this aspect for how your mindset can be changed. If you're given the opportunity to do so, I would highly suggest that you take that opportunity. Thank you so much for watching. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.